You grab your notes out. This whole chapter is working with integers, positive and negative whole numbers, right? Or counting numbers. So we're going to learn how to do all the different kinds of calculations with some. Today we just finished learning how to compare. Now we need to learn how to multiply and divide and add and subtract them, and the little rules are around them. Right? So 1 day for everything. 1 day for multiplying, 1 day for dividing, a day for adding and subtracting, a day for bed math. And that's the chapter. Right? So you know how to multiply. Answer of 2 times 3. What is it? 6. But what I don't want you to forget is that going back to elementary school, grade what? Grade 2, grade 3, multiplying was just a fast way of adding.
They want Lucas in the office.
Oh.
Phones aren't working.
My fault. Lucas?
Yeah, Lucas.
Which one? You.
There's the other Lucas.
I think there's. So, what I'm hoping you remember from elementary school, going back to grade 2 and grade 3, that multiplying was just a fast way of adding, right? So, multiplying was just a quick way of adding, right? This 2 times 3 meant that we had 2 groups of 3, hence there is 6, or it could mean we have 3 groups of 2, which is 6 as well, right? And yeah, there's a reason why we multiply because adding is slower, right? But when it comes to talking about negative numbers, it's nice to think about the adding version of multiplying. So we have these 2 statements that we need to figure out. We have 2 times negative 3. Landry, you have a guess what that might be?
Negative 6.
All right, and Landry's answer is correct. And let's talk about this, all right? So this is saying that we have 2 groups of negative 3. So if I draw negative 3, so I'll draw negative symbols, a negative and 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 a negative. I have 6 of them, 6 negatives, right? So 2 times negative 3 is 6. Let's do the next one. What is negative 2 times negative 3? I'll go with, is it Marcus, right? Marcus?
Negative 6.
Marcus says negative 6. I see another hand. So do you disagree, Simrit?
It's 6.
Somebody says it's 6. Which one of these is right? Right? What do you think, Lydia? Okay, let's talk about what this means. Right? So using this idea. So we're going to do groups of negative 3. Right? We have groups of negative 3. But we have this negative 2. What do you think negative 2 means? Does it mean 2 groups? Landry?
It's negative 2 groups.
Or opposite groups. Right? So we have our 2 groups of 3, but 2 opposite groups. Instead of negative 3, we change those to its opposite version. The plus, the plus, the plus. 2 groups of the opposite. So the answer is not negative 6, but positive 6. Right? So you're looking at the 3 questions we have up on the screen right now, all involving 2 times 3. The answer was 6. Sometimes it was positive 6. Sometimes it was negative 6. Right? And drawing out these groups takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort, right? In order to figure out if the number is positive or negative. So there are some math rules that we need to have memorized, right? That help us do shortcuts to know if the answer is positive or negative. Because you know how to multiply numbers. What's new is it positive 6 or is it negative 6? And depending on your grade 7 teacher, some of you guys talked about it, some of you guys didn't, right? So the rule I want to talk about this. All the different combinations you can have numbers. You can have a positive number times a positive number. That's just what you used to from elementary school. 2 times 3. And when you multiply two positives together, your answer is positive, right? But we usually just don't show the positive in front of a number because it just means it's positive, right? Now, if you have a positive times a negative, the answer is negative, right? This is sort of like the question we did, right? Up here. A positive times a negative, right? So two groups with a negative just gives us a negative one. Now, if we do the negative times a positive, let's go orange here. That's just the exact same thing. We flip the numbers around. It doesn't really make a difference. The answer is negative. All right? And the last situation is if you have a negative times a negative, then the answer ends up being positive, like the last scenario, negative 2 times negative 3. Two groups of the opposite ends up being positive. So you want to memorize these 4 situations, right? And the way I like to think things in my mind, maybe it's helpful for you, is if the two signs are the same, like here and here, its answer is always positive. If the two signs are different, the answer is negative, right? So if the same sign, then plus. If signs are different, then it is negative. Okay? So, if you think of it like that, I think it'll help a lot when you get to more complicated questions. Right? Alright. So now, one thing that makes multiplying kind of harder or trickier is multiplying can be shown lots of different ways. And in junior grades, usually numbers are shown that they're multiplying by showing that it is with a time symbol like this. That means to multiply. However, it doesn't always have to be like that. Does anybody know another symbol that also means multiplying? Marcus.
A dot.
A dot. So a times means to multiply. But I could do the exact same thing and go 5 dot 3. If you see that, that also means to multiply. Okay? Now, there's another way. Similar.
When there's 2 brackets in the side table.
If there's 2 brackets touching, so if you have, say, something like 5 touching a 3 like this, right? There is an invisible times in between there. So if you see 2 numbers touching, the math operation that's between there that you can't see is an invisible times. Can somebody give me another combination? Yes.
I mean, wouldn't it also if you're typing on a keyboard, don't you use like asterisk for times?
Yeah, that's more like a keyboard thing, not what you write down. So that's sort of like the version of the dot, right? Yeah. So you won't see that in text. Really, that's more of a thing. Yeah. So I'm not gonna write that one up. So the other one is like another version of this. Is you can have one number in a bracket and one number not in a bracket. So if a number is touching a bracket, there is also an invisible times in there. Okay? All right, and I'll put a dot this time. Now, to make life harder, since we are doing a chapter on positive and negative numbers, we can have all these as positive or negative numbers. You can have extra plus signs and minus signs in all these different versions, right? So usually if it's negative, we'll have brackets in it. For example, it could be another version of the one up here is we could say it's positive 5 times negative 3 like this. Right? So now all of a sudden you see pluses and minuses all over the place. You have to realize, no, it's not a plus, it's not a minus, that's a positive, that's a negative, and there's a invisible times in between these two things. Right? So that's when I'm seeing stuff like this is what can cause the most frustration. Eventually you'll get used to it, and we'll do simplified versions of these, right? But that's going to make this one a little bit harder. Or it could be like 5 times negative 3 like this. All right? Something like that. Okay? So something to get used to. All right, what time is it? Let's do 4 practice questions. Let's go over here and let's do the top 4 questions. So the multiplying is easy. I want you to really be able to figure out if it's positive or negative. So 5 times 3. Don't worry about the sign. What's 5 times 3?
15.
15. So for this first question, would it be positive 15 or negative 15? Because we have a positive and a negative, the answer is negative. All right. Next one. 6 times 2. Don't worry about the signs. 12. Next, worry about the signs. You have a negative and a positive. What does that give you? Negative. So if you're not sure, we have our list over here. Right? You look at the thing. I have a negative and a positive. Answer is negative. Or the signs are different, so the answer is negative. Okay. Next one. What's in between here that you don't see? Times. You can draw it in if you want. All right. Don't worry about the signs. 7 times 3. 21. Now worry about the signs. You have a negative and a negative. Positive. All right. Right. Negative and negative makes positive. Next one. 12 times 3. 36. If you have a positive and a positive, it's positive. Now, here I put plus signs down to really highlight the fact that it's positive, but that's not really what we do. If the answer is positive, we don't need to show that plus sign. The plus sign sort of sometimes gets in the way, right? So you can just do 36. You can just do 21, right? All right. I think we're doing pretty good here. Maybe just one more, then we'll call it quits. Let's skip all those, and let's go to what happens if we have 3 of them all stacked together. Just give people a second to think here, then I'll ask people for help. All right? All right. What do you think, Marcus?
We do the first 2 first.
Yeah, so we think of BEDMAS. Multiplication is tied. So we just go from left to right. So you combine the first 2 together. Oh, where's my pen? There we go. You combine these together. Don't worry about the 3. Don't worry about the signs. What's 4 times 2?
8.
8. So write down the 8. Okay? Oh, maybe let's do it in blue. All right, now worry about the signs. We had a negative 4 and a positive 2. Is that a positive 8 or is that a negative 8?
Negative 8.
Negative 8. Because a negative and a positive makes a negative. So I'm going to do that. I'll put it in brackets. Now I'll drop down the negative 3 and I'll combine these 2 together. Don't worry about the signs. 8 times 3. What's 24. That? 24. Next. A negative and a negative. Is that a positive or is that a negative?
Positive.
Positive. And that's it. We'll get to a little bit more trickier situations next day. But that's it. All right. So we've got